excited to be back home
I am.
after that trip?
I am.
What was your biggest takeaway from that trip?
The confirmation that talent does not trump time. Like you're reminded, you know, we start out well and you're excited and you play some good teams and you're just like reminded in real time of the words that came out of my mouth. And you know, you're reminded of it. It's true. It's true, and it's a long season, and there is a sort of a emotional and mental stability. It's the duration of that knowledge that I have to have, and you know how you say that's not good enough, and we need to improve, versus, you know, like there's some wrinkles that we have to be patient and iron out. You know, that ecosystem at times is delicate, but on first glance, that's what I learned.
I mean, you've been probably through it plenty of times in your career, but how do you try to implement or manage that ecosystem specific to this circumstance tonight, where you guys got back 36 hours ago, there was like no practice, a short walkthrough? Like, how do you start to get
You
that
ignore it. You completely ignore it. And it's the thing that separates the NBA from the Euro League to the Australian NBL. This is a water dripping on your forehead league, and it just doesn't stop. And I ignore it. I don't talk about it. I just coach and try to get our guys to play better defense than we did on the road. You know, there are some subtleties that apart from, you know, your question, well, what did you learn? Like, I can get a little granular in coach speak in that thing, but I completely ignore it and I move on.
I'm curious, Brett, like with Zaire, we haven't seen him for a while. Just from your standpoint, like what's the check-in like, you know, when you're kind of watching him from afar? Like, what's the communication?
Yeah, and it's extensive. Like, if anybody wants a good story, write about our development staff nowadays, like in the expansive approach that we have taken. And it is as holistic. I can't imagine any professional sport team doing more than we do. NFL, NBA, I can't imagine it. And like, that's a challenge at times for me, because I have, pick 'em, 18 coaches underneath me. Like, I've got to communicate with and talk to and collaborate with and direct them. Like, this is how I see the world. These are my words. This is how I see things. Matisse, Zaire, whomever. And I think that, you know, Matisse's communication is extensive from different pieces. His path, like, what does that equal in relation to making his way maybe back up here, if that's your question, or what are we focused on down there? I don't know, like, the hoop side of your question, but his overall path is one of patience. It's one of communication. The systems are aligned. What does that mean in relation to him, like, navigating, I think, back to the NBA? I don't know.
Brett, what did you learn about Haul on the trip?
He can play. Like, he really has a skill package that you say, okay, you know, that's an NBA package. To anoint him immediately a starter, you know, versus a backup kind of role, probably he's experienced most of his career. The fact that he can shoot, the fact that he actually, like, sees the floor. I was most impressed with his defensive toughness. Like, if you look at his body, you know, he's got a thick chest, he got long arms. I thought he was our best defensive player in Utah, you know, against some pretty dynamic guards in an otherwise forgettable night, you know, periods 1 through 3. The fourth period we put our hand up, but I thought he was pretty good throughout. And I think, you know, probably that has been as surprising as anything, is his defensive toughness. I get the shot, I get him, like, making passes and seeing how people rotate behind, like a middle pick and roll as an example, but his toughness defensively stood out on the road trip.
Right, looking back at it, I mean, a couple of days later, do you wish that you would have gave Kyle O'Quinn some more minutes in the second half?
I do, and you're in a situation where, you know, it's clear that the time off with Joel didn't help, and it's amplified to what degree we can all guess with altitude. And, you know, Joel didn't have one of the Joel games that we need. And as I told Joe, you know, my judgment of him is like rim runs, you know, are you doing it? You know, are you rolling in avoiding being hit on people that tag rollers? You know, are you actively pursuing low zones? Are you a violent screen setter? Like really freeing people up. Like when I start seeing that, it equals energy. And we all have an eye test that we can think different things, but I go to those granular pieces that to me equal Joel Embiid's Joel Embiid. And it's evident that he, you know, that period of time took its toll from a conditioning standpoint that equaled energy, that equaled those parts of the sport that I just said. And I thought Kyle's, you know, live feet and body in the first half was excellent. And I thought Trey Burke, you know, came in and gave us a spark. And in the light of day, I do wish that I did.
Coach, Furkan went 11 for 18 on this road trip. What are you seeing development-wise out of him, specifically offensively?
I think the first thing is the mentality. You know, I anointed him a bomber. I felt the need, I can't remember my words, but I need to grow, you know, that type coming off a bench. And he hears those words often, and then he came in and made a big shot in Portland, and you know, it produces confidence, and fantastic. And his route to where he was to where he is quite a story. And you know, I still look at him as somebody that we've kind of nurtured and grown, and now he's becoming a greatly improved defender. He's not as exposed in isolations. He's one of our better, if you judge it by metrics and pick and roll defense. With his length, he's one of our better defenders in that environment. And I think it all kind of points back into confidence.
Brett, when you take someone like Matisse, a young guy, and they get a DNP, after being in the rotation, obviously, how much responsibility do you feel, I guess, to stay in his ear and say, like, this isn't a punishment, this is just part of the season, versus how much of that has to come from him just understanding this is what being a professional is?
I think it stems from me first. You know, it's one of the responsibilities that I have. I feel like I need to tell him why he has done nothing wrong, you know, and some of it is circumstance, you know, without Ben, like what do you do? And I opted to go with the two small guards. I'm going to do that tonight. And you know, the ripple effects sometimes are punishing obviously the people. In that game it was to him, and then you get into like a juggle match, like is you gonna go with Furkan or James or Matisse, and I can always not go with one of the small point guards, bring Jay Rich back as a backup, which opens up more minutes at the wing. And it's part of the challenge of this team, and I say this in a complimentary way, because it's got sort of a optionality menu for me that, you know, like for instance, I could go with Carlo Quinn, to Keith's point, and I could have played Al, right, together against Millsap and, you know, Plumlee or whatever. So it's sort of like who are you playing as a starting point dictates most of my decisions. But the Matisse thing is like a byproduct of all of those pieces that I've just said, and I do feel the responsibility to tell him all of that, and I have. So you think he's responded well to that? It's
I think
not
so.
A drop his head. Yeah, no, I don't see that, and it's like after a game, he's with a, you know, high level type of team. It's part of life in the league. You know, nobody's apologetic about that conversation. It's just a very direct, honest conversation, and you know, there is none of. Not for me, like it's okay, it's not that at all. Like here's the deal, this is why, it's part of your world, you better learn this now. And there is nothing given. There is nothing given. You have to take stuff. And sometimes it's a little out of your control, which it is now. And I feel like if the conversation, if that situation was like repetitive, and we start getting, you know, 10 games out, well then it's a different conversation. It certainly isn't dramatic, you know, as I see it after a few games.
Brett, with him, as follow-up to Embiid's conditioning, is it as simple as he missed those 2 games and then you combine the altitude in Denver, or is there more to it than that?
I don't think there's any more to it than that. You know, and like we can all say, well, get in a, you know, go to a treadmill, you know, run up and down the court and get your cardio up to 160 and let's see what your resting heart rate, get it back down to 110 after a minute. We can, you know, have him do defensive, we can do all that. There's nothing that equals playing a basketball game. And so, and then you magnify it, you know, amplify it with the altitude, and I see it like that. I see it completely like that. I mean, pivot back to like a Minnesota game and watch him get up and down the floor and watch his spirit and just like go to those pieces that I just said. Watch a screen and roll. Watch a rim run. Watch a duck in. Watch live feet where you're avoiding being hit on an offensive rebound. You know, then everybody can make their own judgments of, oh, he looks tired, you know, he's not as engaged, whatever it is, like, I don't go there. And I think it's as simple as what I just said. We missed that period of time. We played over in the West in the mountains, and let's have a look tonight.
What's your thoughts on the 2-minute report? It came out that Joker actually fouled Joel instead of it being an offensive foul.
If I say what I think, I won't be able to afford a new sofa.
Okay. But do you, is that one of those things, I know it's nice that it comes out, but
There's
sometimes
nothing nice, Keith, about that. It's like,
Yeah.
I thought it, and then I was just like ground in my face and reminded that I was right. That's all I see. You know, that's all I see. And you learn, like, you know, we stole a game in Portland. We stole one. And maybe something was taken from us in Denver. And at the end of the day, it all balances out and you move on. And what I remind our team of 50 minutes ago is every one of these defensive mistakes that they saw equals a win. You can't get beat backdoor Howell. Joe, you gotta run harder in transition defense. Tobias, you gotta come to a jump stop, not leave your feet and have nobody to pass. Like, you can go on and on. That's where we lost. You know, shoot better free throws. Don't turn it over. Not because the ref, like, made a mistake. That is, I don't even go there. It for sure is frustrating, but the messaging back to the team and how I try to trick myself to think is that completely.
Thanks, Brett.
Thank you.